Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale. Today, big episode for you guys. We have a big 32 pro player bracket put together by Minhas. You can see his Twitter handle on the screen there. Go ahead and show him some love for putting this together. 32 of the biggest names in Clash Royale. You'll recognize a lot of these names from my pro tips videos. So I'm excited to cover this. I was invited as a guest here. I did not put this event on, and I did not create the guest lists. Before you say, why was X, Y, and Z not there? But there are a lot of really well-known and big names, as I said, in the community here on Super Bowl Sunday is when I'm recording this. Now, I should note that I recorded all these replays live, but the bracket was so big and it lasted a few hours, so I'm not going to bring you all the matches. I wouldn't do that to you guys. So what I'm going to do is just share some of the highlights, including some of the people who have been on my channel before, to go show them a little love and to show you guys what decks they're playing. And of course, we'll hop into the finals. We'll skip a round or two as we move through the video. So sound good? Let's get into the first match here. So Surgical Goblin versus Batman. Surgical Goblin on the bottom, Batman on the top. Did that come out right? Anyway, Surgical Goblin here playing a miner deck, if I remember correctly. Yes, and there it is, the miner right off the bat there. Probably kind of an awkward starting hand for Surgical, as he did start out with the Ice Golem, rotated to the miner there, and then had to use a rocket against a lonely Executioner. Not great value there, so I'm sure not the starting hand that Surgical Goblin was hoping for. He's going against Batman, who's playing Executioner. Spoiler alert, guys. Gonna see a lot of Executioner. We're also gonna see some interesting cards that you may not be expecting, including the Battle Ram. That's right, Battle Ram is going to be used inside this tournament. So right off the bat here, you can see Batman strikes early, as he's known to do with the Graveyard Freeze combination on Surgical's right tower. Not too much Surgical Goblin could do at that point. He didn't have another counter in hand. He had the minions, which are obviously the best counter for Graveyard, along with Executioner, OP Executioner everywhere. But he played the minions, and then he was caught off guard with that first early freeze spell. Took a lot of damage. Now, I should mention, first round of this bracket was just winner stays on, loser goes home. So that means that the loser here, no chance to make up for it in a best of 3. Now, second round on was best of 3. So keep that in mind here. Surgical Goblin loses this match, he's done. He's out of the bracket. And Batman, I believe, from Hammers as well, but don't quote me on that. I'm not even going to bother mentioning clan names after this because I can't keep track. So bear with me here. And at this point, Surgical needs something to get going here, but playing the miner control deck as Surgical is, it's really tough to come back once you have that deficit. I mean, you can't just chip 1,000 damage or 2,000 damage off a tower, right? Even though he has the rocket as well. But you can see, I mean, at this point, he has the Tornado. NATO is great. It's the last card he played, but sometimes against certain decks, NATO, you know, you end up sitting on the card more often than you end up using it, especially not knowing what archetype you're going to be going against. So here, another freeze combo takes down finally Surgical's right tower, and meanwhile, only 25 seconds left on the clock. Not a heck of a lot Surgical Goblin can do. As I said, has the rocket, but the tower's not even close to being in rocket distance, and it's not close to being in a situation where Surgical can just cycle to the rocket twice, which ends up being the case in some of these matches towards the end. Just cycle to your direct damage spell, get the tower within that magic number of HP, and then cycle to your win condition spell towards the end. So you can see Batman does pick up the 2-0 victory on Surgical Goblin, and I'm going to go ahead and share a few of the first round matches, starting with Colton, or I should say secondly, Colton versus Tag. So Colton and Tag both been on the channel before as well. You guys know both of these guys. Tag, aka Jake, aka Tag You're Pregnant, aka got his name changed. So now he's just Tag. So Sir Tag at the top. We have Colton on the bottom. Now Colton was streaming and playing at the same time. A very difficult task if you ask me, but he did actually all right here. Now I don't want to ruin the results, so we'll have to see what all right means. Does it mean a draw? Does it mean that he won? Does it mean that he came close to winning? We'll have to wait and see. So Colton playing a Royal Giant deck. Now, Royal Giant actually made a big name for himself in this tournament, okay? Royal Giant making an appearance in a lot of decks. And I should point out, before you guys start hating on RG, you know, pros don't care. And actually, Colton was saying this on his stream, and I totally agree, that you play with what works for you. Don't ever be ashamed, at least my opinion. Don't listen to those big YouTubers. No offense, big YouTubers. I love you all. But don't listen to those guys who hate on a card or rage on one card because it's popular or because it's in the meta. I mean, the reason these cards are in the meta usually means that they're good, right? So, hey, if you want to use off-meta cards or off-meta decks, that's totally cool. I mean, good for you, and I actually enjoy that myself, just to break up the monotony of playing the same cards over and over. But when you're in a competition with money on the line, $100 to the winner here, so hey, why not, right? You play your best deck. You play your best players, right? So that's the situation here. You're going to see a lot of Royal Giants, so don't hate on RG. At least you can hate if you want, but hey, if it wins, you use it, right? And RG is difficult to hard counter in the current meta. You know, not a lot of people playing Inferno Tower, and even so, a good RG player can definitely get around Inferno. So Colton, again, just doing a good job of kind of cycling to that Royal Giant, but he has Miner as well, so he can essentially do two forms of chip damage, if you really count the Royal Giant as chip damage, but I guess you could, and, you know, relentlessly attacking that right tower on Tag. Now, Tag, meanwhile, is playing that cool Miner deck, another kind of control-y deck, and of course, he is playing the Inferno Tower that I mentioned before, and even with the Inferno Tower, he just has a tough time stopping Colton's relentless, aggressive gameplay here with Dark Goblin, Royal Giant, Miner on that right tower, and eventually he ends up taking down the tower, Colton that is, and he has Lightning as well. Now, Colton's deck is definitely a very interesting deck that we haven't seen a heck of a lot of before, especially with the Lightning as well, and Guards and Electro Wizard. It's definitely a deck that I would actually advise copying if you're looking for a new meta, viable Royal Giant deck. So that final rocket there from Tag, just not able to do enough against that right tower. A pretty close match. You know, Colton was able to get some decent damage on that left tower just in case that Tag was able to tie things up, but certainly two big dogs end up going head-to-head in the first round. You almost hate to see that because both of those players being as skilled as they are, you know, it kind of sucks, right? And speaking of two really skilled players, first round, another really big matchup, Pompeyo on the top versus Craaap on the bottom. Now, I need to get Craaap on my channel. He's one of the guys who I've really been dying to get scheduled in, but just hasn't happened yet. But I guarantee in the next week or two, the latest, he will be making an appearance on my channel. So Craaap here playing this another Miner deck, surprise, surprise, right? With Executioner going against Pompeyo, playing his bread and butter, the Expo Siege deck. So Expo Siege, it's, you know, it's still viable if you ask Pompeyo, right? But you don't see a lot of other players playing it. This was, I mean, Pompeyo, this is his deck, you know, and this is something that he reached #1 in the entire world playing this deck, and he hasn't veered too far off. He's also had a lot of success with it in tournaments. He's actually won a 1K tournament using this deck recently, so it's not like this deck sucks nowadays, even though, if you ask me, it's been a difficult time for Siege players, especially Expo players. But here, Craaap does a very, very good job of just being very patient. He's aware that that Expo is going to be played, and he makes sure he doesn't push his hand too aggressively and leave himself vulnerable, not have anything to counter that Expo from locking on to one of his crown towers. So again, just going to try to play things on the slow pace here, really relying on that rocket to do most of his damage, and sometimes that just ends up being the case. And if you can get that early advantage, comboing the rocket with the Miner onto Pompeyo's right tower, you can essentially just soak up as much of the overtime as you need, and then eventually take that tower down. And when you look back at all the damage that it was done to it, it wasn't these big pushes with stacks behind a tank. Instead, it was just chip damage with rocket Miner, rocket Miner, rocket Miner, hence the control. So let's take a look at the bracket so far. As you can see, we actually passed quite a few matches here. Again, maybe if you check out Colton's stream, I'll link it. He might have this video archived. But you can see a lot of pros going very close to the best of 3, going 1-1 on that second round. And then we're going to go ahead and fast all the way forward here to Quentin versus Ace. Now, Quentin did very, very good. I wish I could share like a 2-hour video with you guys and really break down the gameplay here. But Quentin did very well with this deck against Ace. So Quentin playing the Graveyard deck, Ace playing the classic beatdown with the new flair of the Executioner. So on the bottom here, let's take a look at Ace's deck. This is actually very similar to the deck, if not the same exact deck that Marcel showcased on my channel yesterday in the beatdown archetype video. And you can see, it's a pretty solid deck in the new meta. He has guards in there, which is a great defensive tool. But the thing is, against Quentin here, against the deck that Quentin is playing, you can see guards in almost every single deck. It's incredible. I mean, if you guys need some defensive help, think about subbing some guards into your deck. It might work out for you. So, yeah, I mean, the thing is Ace just can't get a big push going because of the defense that Quentin is playing. Now, let's look at the screen right here, guys. Lightning, even with the Lightning, he does such a good job, Quentin that is, distracting the Giant every single time. This is, in fact, that was the best push that Ace could pull off this entire match right there. Getting, I think, 3 hits in with the Giant, maybe 2 there if you want to rewind. But either way, every single time that Ace comes with the Giant push, Quentin is ready. You can see Graveyard being played onto Ace's right tower, but look at that. Cannon distracting the Giant. He has Zap Spell to give his Mega Minion the advantage over Ace's Mega Minion, and then he prevents the Giant from even getting to his tower. Just really textbook defense there by Quentin. Very, very good job. And unfortunately, Ace isn't really making any mistakes here, any misplays, but every single time he tries to get something going, unfortunately, Quentin just ready there with a defensive answer. Now, finally, Ace does get the Giant and the Prince to the tower, but Quentin was ready for it. He distracted the Prince for just 5-10 seconds there with the guards in the center of his side of the arena, and then he was able to take advantage, punish Ace with that Graveyard combo. So now we're moving again ahead in time here. Chicken Bob versus St. Belekin. St. Belekin made it very far here. In fact, we are in the semifinals, I believe, right now. It's tough when you skip so many matches, but Chicken Bob made it very far as well. Now, Chicken Bob was one of the only 2 players to play the Barbarian Hut. Now, mind you guys, noteworthy, right, that not one player in this entire tournament played a Hog Rider. Ooh, maybe I was a little premature on the Hog Rider isn't dead video. But, you know, it's not dead on ladder, especially Hog Freeze decks. Still viable, especially if you have maxed out Freeze. But in tournament standards, man, I think it should say something that 32 pros all played 1 or more matches, and nobody, at least unless I missed it, played a Hog Rider once. So that's pretty noteworthy to me. Here we go on this match here. Chicken Bob, one of the only 2 players to play the Barbarian Hut is what I was saying. And, you know, you might see Barbarian Hut and think, oh, that's an off-meta card. Interesting choice by Chicken Bob. But when you think about it, everybody is playing Lightning. And it reminds me back of the days of the Hog Rider Barbarian Hut deck that was really a force in the meta. And the reason it was so good it was lightning bait, right? I mean, you could protect your Musketeer, you could protect your Electro Wizard, your Ice Wizard, in this case, your Mega Minion, with the Barbarians in the Barbarian Hut. You lightning a Barbarian Hut, you're only taking off not even half the HP off of that Barbarian Hut, so it can withstand lightning as a lightning rod pretty well, not to mention the spawned Barbarians do most of the time attract those lightning strikes versus, say, a Mega Minion. So here, you know, the thing about Chicken Bob is he has to be careful of Belekin's deck, because Belekin is playing that really heavy beatdown, trying to combo the Giant with the Executioner with Minions, Electro Wizard, and once he gets a pump on the board, it can be trouble for Chicken Bob, especially right now in the beatdown archetype. Once you let them, especially moving into double elixir time, once you let them have 1 or 2 pumps on you, it is really difficult to stop a big push. So even if you, I mean, think about it this way. If you're going against a beatdown player like Chicken Bob is right now, even though he has a pretty decent counter deck, you have to get as much damage as humanly possible, right, in the first 2 minutes before you go into double elixir time. Because double elixir time, especially going against a player as good as St. Belekin, double elixir time against a beatdown deck, once they have the elixir pump, that's very difficult to do a lot of damage against. However, Chicken Bob does have the lightning spell, so we can kind of chip away. Lightning and Fireball in the same deck with the log, so he has a lot of chip damage in terms of spell, but look at Chicken Bob's deck. It's kind of interesting, right? I mean, what would his ideal win condition be? It would be Barbarians from the Barbarian Hut mixed with, say, an Ice Golem for extra tankage, and then just basically trying to combo that with a Lightning spell. It's an interesting win con. I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of it. It's a little bit off the meta. It's not bad, and Chicken Bob's a way better player than I am, so I'm not trying to, diss his deck. But for me, I just like having that tank in there, that more traditional tank rather than a glass tank in the Ice Golem. Just me. So eventually, St. Belekin, with time on his side here and the Elixir Pump just went away, he's able to do enough damage to that left tower on Chicken Bob that eventually he takes it within the Lightning Strike to pick up the win here. So as I mentioned earlier, at this point, Chicken Bob just trying to do as much damage as he can, but Belekin just being patient, wait until he has that Elixir, puts down the log, gets it into that HP range, and at this point you can see Chicken Bob just trying to pile up the HP troops around to act as a lightning rod for that final lightning. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough, and the tower goes down. So now we're going to go ahead and move into the semifinals. These are the quarterfinals. Okay, geez, where am I, Ash? Where am I? Anyway, it's St. Belekin versus CmChugh. So CmChugh we have not been following so far, but he has been dominating up until this point. But I knew I was going to show him later on in the tournament, so now we get to take a look at what he's been playing. So he's, I believe in this deck, he's going against St. Belekin again. This is the next round now, and Belekin is playing a Royal Giant deck. Again, I said Royal Giant was not a stranger in this tournament. He was everywhere. So guys, think about it. Think about using a Royal Giant deck in tournaments, especially if you're looking for a good and simple deck that can counter a lot of what the meta has to offer. Copy one of these ones. I will show every single deck spotlight in this video on above me. So just copy one of those decks, give them a try, and let me know how you do with them. And also, you probably should pause right now, or at least just listen to me ramble, and tell me who you think is going to win at this point. We have the final four are, ooh, do I even know off the top of my head? Ooh, awkward, right? It's St. Belekin and CmChugh, obviously. And I think on the other side, it is Craaap and Quentin, I want to say. So let me know who you think is going to win out of those four. Either way, we'll revisit the bracket after this replay and take a look. So here, CmChugh, again, it's kind of a similar story to the last match, right? He's able to maintain that Elixir advantage. And one thing you want to pay attention to when you're looking at CmChugh's play is how disciplined he is with the Elixir collectors. Sometimes when he has one Elixir collector, and this happens actually time and time again here, when he has one Elixir collector about to expire, and he already has a golem, sometimes close to full health, on the board, he'll kind of, he'll hold back his big push, and he'll just repump instead. He'll repump because he knows he doesn't have the cards that he wants to, or he knows he doesn't have a big enough Elixir advantage, and he wants to make sure he can maintain that Elixir advantage going into overtime or double Elixir time. So here you can see he is kind of chipping away slowly using that lightning where he can is CmChugh, but he's not doing a ton of damage, but he still holds on to that big Elixir advantage in those two pumps, able to just play defense at this point. And anytime that Royal Giant gets near, he has that cannon ready to go right over there in the center of the arena or towards the river in his side of the arena. And look at that, the Royal Giant able to get barely one hit off his tower there. And again, reloading with that golem. Now, this is going to be a very lucrative push here for CmChugh, and he knows how to do it here. So here comes the Executioner, played at the river there, beautiful lightning, taking down all the defending units, and there it is. The golem is going to just barely get to the tower, and every golem hit does a heck of a lot of damage to the tower there. So at this point, Belekin knows he's probably in big trouble. Golem at the river. Here comes the guards. Guards just such an annoying thing to deal with as a defender with a golem. Of course, nothing will take them out in one hit. And then once the golem gets to the tower there, Belekin knows it's GG. And very well done there by CmChugh. Belekin, good job too, man. You got all the way to the quarterfinals. Pretty crazy. Okay, so let's move on here. Consult the bracket here. Okay, so we can see the bracket, and yes, indeed it was Craaap moving ahead from Quentin, going to the final round. So after 32 pros, it comes down to this, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Okay, that's pretty bad, huh? All right, anyway, let's just get to the freaking match, Ash. So there it is, the finals. So the finals, again, best of 3, and it did go 3. I'm going to bring you 2 of those replays today. So we have Craaap at the top. We saw 1 or 2 of his replays earlier. An amazing player against CmChugh on the bottom. A very good player in his own right. Both big names in the community, big names on social media for sure. I'll include both of their Twitter handles in case you're interested in following them and see what decks they're using recently. So Craaap at the top, trying to pump up here. Actually, CmChugh. Let's talk about CmChugh's deck first. This is the Battle Ram deck I talked about. Now, pretty surprising here, as I think all the pros, it's pretty safe to say, have been pretty lukewarm on the Battle Ram. Either they hate it or they like it but feel like it needs a little bit of a buff. So I think it was surprising to see CmChugh play the Battle Ram in this final round. You know, this is where the money is on the line here, but he played it, and you got to give him props for that. Playing a card that, hey, not people, A, people aren't expecting you to play, and B, people aren't really sure how to deal with, even though, you know how to counter Battle Ram. It's not something you're used to seeing right now because, let's face it, the card isn't even technically out yet. So here, 2 pumps up is Craaap, and that might be an Craaap moment for CmChugh, because dealing with 2 pumps is not easy against a beatdown deck, as we just saw on the previous replay when roles were reversed. So here comes the Golem, and here comes the big push here for Craaap. CmChugh, we're going to see how he chooses to defend against it. So Executioner coming, Executioner played himself is CmChugh, and a pretty good tornado there actually gets Craaap's Craaap's Executioner down very, very low HP. The Golem barely touches down on that left tower, and here comes the guard. So that was actually pretty good defense, considering he was down 2 elixir pumps by CmChugh. But now he's gonna try to do a little bit of a push here. I thought I saw a miner there. My bad. I thought I saw him. Oh, it was a miner on the pump for CmChugh, countered by the Executioner. You have to protect your pumps if you're going to invest in them, and Craaap is smart by doing just that. Unfortunately, the Executioner really didn't get much going for Craaap there, but now he's mounting a big push of his own, again in the left lane, against a tower that he actually has a little bit of a lead now on CmChugh. So here comes the Battle Ram in the opposite lane. The first Battle Ram play, unless I missed one earlier, but doesn't really get much done with it, unfortunately for him. The guards do a pretty good job countering it, and here comes the Golem in the opposite lane, again, trailed by the Executioner, Ice Spirit, 2 Executioners now, and remember, Craaap does have the Lightning. I'm not sure, okay, he didn't use it. I wasn't sure if he just used it or not. There it is. So there's the Lightning play, and again, doing a significant amount of damage to CmChugh's tower there is Craaap, and at this point, it's looking like it's going to be a victory for Craaap. At this point, he just has to reload one more time and get one of those big nasty pushes, and then CmChugh's tower will be down. CmChugh, on the other hand, has no choice but to push the opposite lane. Doing what you should do, I mean, he has to cause Craaap to use a little bit of elixir to defend, but at that point, it was really moot, as Craaap just needed to cycle back to the spells, take down CmChugh's tower. So at this point, it was 1-1. CmChugh won a match, Craaap won that match, and it all came down to this, ladies and gentlemen. It was CmChugh on the top versus Craaap on the bottom for $100, and more importantly, to have the title of the Pros Pro, the winner of the Pro bracket. So at the top, CmChugh, again, a lot of elixir pumps in this tournament, guys. A lot of elixir pumps. If you're going to play a beatdown deck, especially, well, not especially, specifically a beatdown deck, you're going to probably want to be rolling with elixir pump. That's what everybody's rolling with in this tournament, at least. Everybody rolling with beatdown, I want to say, everybody, at least who I saw, did run the Elixir Collector. So something you might want to apply to your decks at home, something you might want to use if you're playing Beatdown, not having a lot of success. Consider maybe adding in the Elixir Pump, right? Getting that advantage on the opponent and really capitalizing in the last minute of gameplay. So I said there would be 2 Barbarian Huts in this tournament, and here's the other one. Craaap actually ending things off with a Barbarian Hut of his own. So interesting deck here by Craaap to end off the tournament with the Royal Giant, the Dark Goblin, the Barbarian Hut, Lightning, and Mega Minions so far. Forgot the final 3 cards. We'll just have to wait and see here. All I remember at this point is the winner, which I'm not going to tell you, and don't you dare fast forward. So CmChugh, on the other hand, at the top, playing that big Golem beatdown deck again. So this is going to be the story of the day. I didn't go back and look at the stats, but I did notice that more often than not, people who played the big heavy beatdown decks won. And that doesn't speak to their skill levels, but, you know, anecdotally, you play beatdown, you play the pump, you play the big heavy golem deck, you put that OP executioner behind it, you're going to have some success. So 2 pumps again, and I think you guys know how it is. You get down 2 pumps to nothing against a beatdown player like Craaap is right now, and yeah, it's tricky at this point. It's kind of tricky. So he waits to see what lane CmChugh puts his golem in, and then he puts down his Barbarian Hut. And there's the lightning on the Barbarian Hut by CmChugh. A preemptive lightning play, not a bad move there considering he had so much elixir because of the 2 pumps. So he plays the lightning very early on. Now he's able to get a nice stack behind the golem, and that's what I was talking about earlier, guys. CmChugh has the wherewithal not to unload, you know, crazily on that first push. Instead, he re-ups the pump. You'll notice that he re-upped his pump there after the golem hadn't even crossed the bridge yet. And then what he did was he distracted, dealt with that Royal Giant on defense, and then played another golem on the bridge there. Why would he play a golem on the bridge so aggressively like that? It actually wasn't that aggressive of a play. It all comes back again, guys, to the fact that he had the 2 pumps. That's a huge elixir advantage, and when you have such an elixir advantage, you want to be able to take advantage of it and just be relentless with the pushes to the point where eventually Craaap wouldn't be able to get that Barbarian Hut down fast enough to counter that golem. Barbarian Hut on its own, a decent counter, a really good counter against a golem, against any beatdown deck, but when you're relentless with the push there and you can maintain the elixir advantage like CmChugh is doing, well, you'll see the result here. CmChugh able to do a lot of damage with those continuous pushes, and now he gets to the point where all he needed was the log to lightning and pulls off the victory. So again, guys, huge shout out to all the pros involved. Really, it was awesome watching all these new decks. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. And a huge shout out to Minhas again for having me and letting me recap this. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And huge shout out to CmChugh for winning it all. Guys, thanks to all the pros, win or lose, you guys are studs. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. As always, take care.